it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 574th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. Tom is, again, not with us. He's having trouble organizing his sleep these days, and so I don't blame him for kind of feeling like he's not ready. Anyway, this is Energy Week and number 574, and we are looking at the news for the last week of energy. We're starting on the 16th of May, which is a Thursday, and ending on Wednesday, the 22nd of May. And so that's, I'm sorry, I've got things organized a little differently here than I usually do. I should tell you, as I usually do, that the show is taken from items that I've put up at my blog, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. There are about 3 items out of a normally 15 or so every day. And you can go to the date that I try to keep you apprised of for the show and click on that on the calendar and then find the articles that I'm talking about if you wish to read them, or you can go down on the screen and find them a little lower where there's a couple of links. One goes to a website that Tom and I have used for a long time to organize the show, and the other one goes to a document file of what is at that link, so you can download it. Anyway, we're starting, as I said, on the 13th of, the 16th of May. We have a picture of wildfires in Canada. This one is in Alberta. This story is from ABC News, that is American Broadcast Company. The title is "Wildfire Smoke Could Impact the United States Again as Canada Braces for Another Summer of Fires." With numerous wildfires burning across Canada, including about 40 that remain out of control, meteorologists said conditions are getting set for a replay of last year's fire season when thick smoke wafted to the United States, making air hazardous as far as New York City. Now, for those who remember, last year there were, I don't know how many wildfires, maybe even the Canadians don't know how many wildfires, because there was just so much burning, and this smoke from these wildfires was piling into the United States, and it was running across the upper Midwest and east from there, blown by winds, bringing hazardous air to New York City. That sounds kind of impossible. I mean, I think of New York City as having hazardous air. But, you know, that's the way it is. I was a student at Columbia when an announcement came that the air on, this was on the news, the air on Wall Street had a carbon monoxide level that was unsafe. That was just walking around Wall Street. And when I looked into it, I found that the oxygen level at Wall Street was low enough that you could not wear a mask to get the carbon monoxide out of the air. You had to wear an air pack to have safe air as you were walking around New York City. And I just said, no wonder my grades aren't any good. Okay, our next item has a view of the base of a wind turbine. This is from ReNews, And the title is First Steel in the Water for Ørsted at Revolution. Revolution here is the name of a wind farm. Ørsted has reached the steel in the water milestone on its 704 megawatt Revolution wind farm off the coasts of Connecticut and Massachusetts. The company announced that it has installed the first turbine foundation a few weeks after a judge rejected a last-minute effort to delay the project. Now, I do have a comment about this. I've been doing this work of putting together news for for energy and climate change since the 2nd of June 2012, and I've posted every day since then. One of the things that I found early on is that anywhere you expect some renewable energy project to succeed, there's going to be some group of people who claim to be a grassroots organization, usually claim to be a grassroots organization, but there's going to be organized resistance. And in some cases, this resistance is actually organized by a utility, by fossil fuels, by rich people who are invested in organizations of that type. They want to make sure that renewable energy does not succeed. And they're not going to be able to do that anymore. As you know, this show progresses, you'll see reasons why they can't do it anymore. But basically what it comes down to is the cost of renewable energy is well below the cost of fossil fuels energy. And that's just inescapable. If you're going to use natural gas, coal, or nuclear power, or other fossil fuels, you're going to have to pay extra for the privilege of doing that, because renewable energy is so inexpensive by comparison. And as I said, we will look into that more. Okay, we're up to Friday, May 17th. No, we're not up to Friday, May 17th. We're up to a solar array. And I'm going to put that up. This is from Renews. Solar array, this particular one is SunGrow EMEA. The title of the story is Views Sought on 740 Megawatt UK PV Giant. Ørsted and PS Renewables have presented updated proposals for a 740 megawatt solar project in central England. The developer partnership is bringing forward proposals for One Earth solar farm, which also includes associated battery storage and infrastructure, to be located primarily in Nottinghamshire. So this is going to be, you know, off where Robin Hood had his merry men. And yes, there are still woods there today. I've been there, or at least I was there 60 years ago. The UK has changed, I think, a little bit in the last 60 years. 60 years ago, almost nobody had a refrigerator, and almost nobody had central heat 60 years ago. Believe it or not. They thought that refrigerators were unnecessary and central heat was silly. They changed their minds when they found those things. Anyway, this 740 megawatts is a huge system. And the UK is densely populated. So I think this is, I'm intrigued by this. Anyway, we're up to Friday, May 17th. We have a picture of a different solar array. And in this particular case, this is from, the solar array is in Australia. This is from PV Magazine Australia. The title is South Australian Teams South Australian teams with California on clean energy ambitions. That should be South Australia, not Australian. South Australian, sorry, I'm gonna give up on that. The state governments of South Australia and California have signed an agreement that will see them work together on transitioning to clean energy and integrating renewable energies, including green hydrogen, into their respective grids. This green hydrogen thing is kind of a mystery. And the reason I say that is because I have seen billions of dollars getting invested in green hydrogen without any clear idea of what the green hydrogen is for. And I know that might sound bizarre, but if it does sound bizarre, then good, because I think it's bizarre. We don't know whether green hydrogen is actually going to be useful or not. The reason it's called green, hydrogen is mostly made from methane, and there's carbon dioxide released and all kinds of things. Hydrogen has a large carbon footprint. Green hydrogen is done by hydrolysis. And the thing that makes it green is that the electricity used for the hydrolysis comes from solar, wind, or some other so-called green source. This is much more expensive than making it from methane or coal, which is another possible source. But at the same time, it has a very small carbon footprint by comparison. And the notion here is that if you have hydrogen, you've got something you can store. If you have hydrogen, you've got something you can burn for energy, or you can use in a fuel cell for energy. There's a lot of ways that you can use it. You can use it for making fertilizer. Hydrogen is an extremely valuable element, and I have no doubt that there will be use for green hydrogen, but I'm not sure that it's actually going to help when it comes to reducing carbon emissions. And huge amounts of money are being invested, and what I'm talking about is projects that cost many billions of dollars. They're being invested in the expectation that the hydrogen that's going to be made is going to be saleable. But this is a chicken and egg thing where they're trying to hatch the egg as it's being laid, I guess. I don't know what's going on here, but the goals, I think there's a lot going on that is not clear. Let me put it that way. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next item. We have a picture of school buses all lined up in a row. The story is from Clean Technica. Let me put this up so you can see it. Zoom provides first U.S. school district with a 100% electric V2G school bus fleet in Oakland. Zoom announced that Oakland Unified School District will be the first major U.S. school district to have a 100% electrified school bus system with vehicle-to-grid technology. Zoom is providing a fleet of 74 electric school buses with bidirectional chargers. This is really interesting. The thing about V2G is in a V2G system, what you do is you charge the car, the bus, the truck, the whatever it is you've got. Could be a train. You charge it, and as you do that, you're putting a lot of energy into battery storage. Now, what happens is if that vehicle is plugged in at the time that the grid needs some extra power, and if the owner of the vehicle permits it, because you might know that you're going to have to take off at just the very moment that the grid demand peaks. And if that's the case, you've got to be able to shut this down so that your batteries are full. But if the utility needs a battery to match demand, and you've given it permission to do it, it can draw electricity from the vehicles. And in this picture, those buses are all hooked up. In the upper right-hand corner of that, you can see Zoom. And by the way, there's an umlaut over the U, and it's the only place that I saw an umlaut over the U. So I'm assuming that Zoom is actually spelling their name two different ways. One is with the umlaut, the other without. Maybe they've put the umlaut there just to be fancy. I don't know. But if the local utility needs electric power, it can draw on electricity. It can draw electricity from all those school buses that are lined up. And then as soon as they no longer need electricity from the school buses, they can power them to put it back, so they're top off their batteries. And yes, the owner of the battery that the utility uses gets some kind of value out of hooking it up that way. Okay, the next item is from Clean Technica again, and the picture here says pouring sublime concrete, courtesy of Sublime Systems. The title is Sublime Systems is leading the transition to low carbon cement in Boston. Sublime Systems, a spin-off from MIT, and you know it's a spin-off from MIT because otherwise why would they come up with Sublime Systems as the name? Somebody gave that some thought. Is focused on reducing the carbon emissions from making cement. On May 16th, 2024, it announced the first commercial application of its low-carbon Sublime Cement, trademark name, is being used for the indoor public space of One Boston Wharf. So, there is something going on at One Boston Wharf. And what they've done is they've made a large area where the concrete in the area is made using green hydrogen. We were just talking a minute ago about green hydrogen and what's it for. By the way, I'm going to mention also cement and concrete, really interesting things. You can make bad concrete and it won't last. You can make good concrete and it lasts a long time. And in that respect, I'd like to mention that there are things that were built during the Roman Empire, under the Roman Empire, where bridges and dams and things of that nature were made of concrete. And in many cases, the best example is the Parthenon in Rome, which is a big building made of concrete that has no reinforcing. And it's been there since Roman times. It's lived through earthquakes and all kinds of things. It's still there. And the cement that they were making in ancient Rome was able to withstand the test of time. Now we're trying to get something that is not polluting. And in those days, honestly, I don't know how polluting it was, but it had to be polluting. Okay, we have an item from Renew Economy, which is an Australian publisher. We have a picture of a solar farm. That picture looks like it's turned 90 degrees from what I would like it to be. And but that's the way it came to me. The title of this is Nuclear Option Costs 6 times more than renewables, Study Finds. Now, I would like very much if people would stop saying 6 times is more. Does that mean 6 times as much? or does it mean 6 times as much added to the what's already there, making it 7 times as much? I can't tell. I think that's bad usage, and it's very, very common. I've become a kind of a usage nut in the last 20 some odd years, and there are certain things that I just hate, one of them being the word utilize. I just can't stand the word utilize. It means to make something useful. It doesn't mean to use, it means to make something useful by the logic of the English language. Anyway, this is from Renew Economy. Building nuclear reactors would cost 6 times more than wind and solar firmed up with batteries. An independent report released by Clean Energy Council shows the industry's body chief executive said taxpayers need to know the cost of nuclear power. I absolutely agree with that. Nuclear power is expensive, and I've talked about the fact that NextEra Energy in June of 2022 came up with a presentation for its stockholders showing how it was going to be investing in electric generation facilities over the next 10 years that had nothing associated with fossil fuels or nuclear energy. And NextEra is not a company that's afraid of nuclear. I think they own 7 nuclear plants. It might be 6 nuclear reactors, but they certainly own the one at Seabrook. And they are not interested in investing in nuclear or any of the other fossil fuel technology, because nuclear power, they're saying, will cost, regardless of what kind of reactor it comes from. It could be the conventional big reactors, or it could be small modular reactors. They're saying it's going to cost 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour wholesale. And they're saying that if they firm up solar or firm up wind to a point where they have a product they call near firm, and what they mean by near firm is they give battery backup to these technologies to the point where the facilities are at what they say is at least as reliable as nuclear energy for providing dispatchable electricity at peak demand periods. So they're saying you can do this. You can make wind power, solar power at least as reliable as nuclear. And I could go forever into why it is at least as good. But it is at least as good, and it will, if near firm solar, near firm wind, they're going to cost less than 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Why would you buy a nuclear power plant with all the issues that it's got, including disposing of waste and insurance and so forth, when you could have solar or wind with batteries? It's a really good question. And the nuclear industry does not have what I would call a really good answer for that. Okay, the next piece that we're going to be looking at comes from Clean Technica. And the title of the article is Resilience at the Edge. It is literally at the edge. City of Eastport considers harnessing tidal power for island microgrid. Eastport, Maine, on an island at the easternmost point, the edge, of the continental United States, is connected to the mainland by a single causeway. This had been an island. It's got a causeway now. It faces powerful Atlantic winds and is susceptible to power outages. It could be getting a microgrid powered by the tides. I think that's kind of interesting. And that's a pretty place. You know, I've always liked seaside locations. I used to live in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and in Kingston, Massachusetts, and I enjoyed living close to the sea. In fact, I lived in Kingston on a peninsula that was surrounded by a tidal, the mouth of a river where it was tidal. And I enjoyed that very much. I enjoyed the weather there for sure, because it was always kind of comfortable. In hot weather and cold weather, it was always more moderate than it was just 2 miles away. Okay, our next item is from Common Dreams. And we have a picture of a rooftop solar installation, a woman putting in solar power, and that is, I believe, in Puerto Rico. Yeah, the Barrio Electrico image, yes, I believe that's Puerto Rico. The title is U.S. Lawmakers Sound Alarm Over Threat to Rooftop Solar in Puerto Rico. Over 20 members of the U.S. Congressional Democratic Caucus urged safeguarding affordable access to rooftop solar power in Puerto Rico by protecting net metering, which the lawmakers called essential to the island's clean energy goals and economic growth. This is really important. The island of Puerto Rico has shown itself to be highly susceptible to storms, and Hurricane Maria is just one example of a storm. They had their electric system in parts of the island shut down for weeks, and rooftop solar is a good way to prevent that kind of dependence on fossil fuel plants. In Puerto Rico, the fossil fuel plants generate electricity on the south side of the island, and the electricity is transmitted to the north side of the island. And those transmission lines, when they go out, you don't have electricity. But there were a few places in Puerto Rico where there was a constant power supply, more or less constant, which were dependent on solar power. So we are up to Sunday, the 19th of May. We have a picture of a graphic showing hydrogen. This is hydrogen. This is green hydrogen in the graphic. And this comes from the NRDC, which is the Natural Resources Defense Council. Can hydrogen help combat the climate crisis? That's the title. Hydrogen is the most plentiful element in the universe, and it's a building block for a burgeoning clean energy industry because using it for energy doesn't emit any greenhouse gases. These facts make it pretty attractive for energy, but the promise of so-called green hydrogen has largely been out of reach. So what's happening here is that you can make hydrogen from green energy by hydrolysis, and you can store that hydrogen. You can use it in a whole bunch of different ways, but it's not coming into the market as, I should say, it's not coming into the market as effectively and as fast as cheaper batteries are. And I want to mention about batteries. I know that there are people who are saying batteries are not safe. You should see the fires. I can assure you that I believe a lithium-ion battery burning has got to be an alarming sight. A gasoline-powered car burning is an alarming sight. I know because I've seen them on interstate highways, just pulled over because they conked out or something, and somebody did something silly, or for whatever reason the car caught fire, the gasoline tank burst, gasoline was all over the place, the fire was burning brightly. Well, the statistics from the insurance company and from the federal government say that the likelihood of a fire in any given gasoline-powered car is a big multiple of the likelihood in a car powered by a lithium-ion battery. And people are mostly afraid of lithium-ion batteries because of the experience that has happened with them when people use batteries that are faulty or whatever for cell phones or other things that kind of catch fire. And that, I'm sure, is a problem. But lithium-ion is not the only way to do things. Tesla uses lithium-ion batteries for the cars it sells in the United States, but the cars it sells in China are powered by lithium ferrophosphate batteries that don't catch fire very easily at all. And I believe that Tesla will probably use lithium ferrophosphate batteries in the United States. The reason why they haven't switched is twofold. It's because, first of all, the number of fires in cars is very limited. I don't know, I remember reading that there were 52, but I forget whether that was in a year or whether it was in 3 years or what, but it's very limited. And the other thing is that they've got a factory that's set up for lithium ion. So anyway, hydrogen is plentiful, and it doesn't produce greenhouse gases, but we're not ready to go there yet. That's what this is about. Okay, our next story is about the BYD shark. There is a BYD shark. Title, this is from Clean Technica. BYD launches its first pickup truck, the BYD Shark, in Mexico. This is not available in the United States, but it's available next door. BYD launched its first pickup truck, the BYD Shark, in Mexico. Positioned as an intelligent luxury electric pickup, BYD Shark features the DMO Super Hybrid Off-Road platform. So this is a hybrid. The latest addition to BYD's product portfolio. BYD developed it for the global market. So BYD developed the pickup truck for the global market, not for the Chinese market. The BYD is based on the English expression "build your dream," but I believe BYD is based in Shenzhen, which is a city just over the narrow waterway from Hong Kong, and it's in China. And BYD is one of the most effective sellers of battery vehicles, and Tesla sells more in terms of the amount of money, but I think BYD sells more in terms of the number of vehicles. Okay, our next item is from Yahoo. We have a picture here. These are wind turbines in West Virginia. The title is State Legislators pass new measures making affordable solar program more accessible to the Virginian region. Now, when they say Virginian region, they're talking about not just Virginia, but in at least also West Virginia. Virginia is gearing up to harness the power of solar energy like never before with the launch of shared solar programs across the state. The General Assembly approved measures to make solar power more accessible to residents. Now, it happens that things are going on with wind power here too, which is why there's wind turbines there. And I really can't say, my notes don't say why the wind turbines were chosen for this particular function, but there it is. The West Virginia is going to be installing wind power as part of this Virginia region thing. So we'll watch and see how that comes out. Okay, our next item, we're up to Monday, May 20th. Our next item is we have a picture of batteries. This is a battery facility in Switzerland, and that doesn't look like any part of Switzerland I was ever in, and I have been in Switzerland, but I didn't spend much time there, so I saw some really beautiful mountains. This is from Clean Technica. The title is Dirt Cheap Batteries Enable Megawatt Scale Charging Without Big Grid Upgrades Right Away. The battery prices keep plummeting. In 2022, 1 kilowatt hour of battery capacity cost $159. In 2023, it was 136, so it had gone from 159 to 136 in 1 year. At the beginning of 2024, it was $95, so it had gone from 159 to $95 in 2 years. And CATL announced recently that it would be shipping batteries for $56 per kilowatt hour at the end of 2024. So it's gone from 159 to 56. Now, in order to understand that, and I've explained this many times, but it doesn't hurt to say it again, what we're talking about here is the capacity of the battery to deliver electricity, not the electricity. And I have actually read journalists say, no, such and such battery costs $400 per kilowatt hour. So it's got a long ways to go because you can buy electricity at 20 cents per kilowatt hour. And this costs $400. Sorry. That's like saying spring water costs $1 a gallon. So a 500-gallon truck should not cost more than $500 because the battery is analogous to the truck, where the spring water is analogous to the electricity. So you add $56 per kilowatt hour, we're talking about a low price. And 10 years ago, I was seeing people write about how when the price of batteries went below $200 per kilowatt hour, the world would go topsy-turvy because batteries would be so cheap, and they would, it would just cause a revolution in energy storage. That has happened. The cost of battery storage is extremely low today, and it's going lower. We'll get back to that. Okay, our next item shows a drilling rig. This is from an organization called The Cool Down. And I don't know what the Cool Down thing is, but it's a publisher that I've seen come online recently. Maybe it's been online for a while, but I've only seen things from them in about the last 3 weeks. This drilling rig is from Sage Geosystems. The title is Company Receives Pentagon Contract to Investigate Potential Site for Dry Rock Geothermal Power Plant. Houston's Sage Geosystems, so Sage Geosystem is in Houston, won a contract to analyze the potential for a mostly subterranean power storage system at Fort Bliss. The setup would make it possible for renewable energy to be stored and discharged for 12 hours or more. So what they're going to do here is they're going to, the plan is to take renewable energy and store it as heat underground in these storage facilities. Underground, if you go deep enough, it's going to be hot anyway. So it's not like you're going to be losing a lot of the energy that you put down there just because it's underground. And we'll have to see how that works. But that's what they're talking about. Okay, our next item is from Energy Live News, and we have a picture here of a castle on Loch Ness, Urquhart Castle on Loch Ness. The title is Loch Ness to get 3 billion pounds, now that's maybe $4 billion, hydropower boost. Glen Eroch Energy Limited has revealed plans for a $3 billion hydroelectric project at Balmacan Estate near Loch Ness. The project is designed to provide extended energy storage capacity, integrating renewable energy into the grid and reducing local carbon emissions by 10%. So what they're talking about is a hydropower boost. This is a hydroelectric project that they're doing at Loch Ness. We'll have to keep an eye on that too. The next project that we have is also from Energy Live News, same place, also in Scotland, I think in Scotland, in Perthshire. And it has a picture here of a power station. That is an old power station. You should be able to tell that from the architecture. The title is First New Turbine Powers Up at Tummel Bridge Power Station. The first new turbine at the Tummel Bridge Power Station in Perthshire has commenced generating renewable electricity following its successful installation and energization. The project aims to increase the station's potential output from 34 megawatts to 40 megawatts. And the deal here is that this power station had generators in it that were turned by water. You can see behind the station pipes coming down from a higher area. And the water, because those turbines were relatively inefficient, and I think they were like 70, 80 years old, something like that. So they're upgrading them at the same time that they're replacing them because they're getting old. So our next discussion is an article from evwind.es. The .es indicates that it's from Spain. This is a solar farm, and I believe that's a solar farm in Spain. Wind power and photovoltaic generation will soon surpass nuclear and hydroelectric generation. The International Solar Energy Society explained how solar and wind energy dominate new global capacity additions. In the last decade, PV capacity increased 9-fold. Wind generation tripled. Natural gas grew by 3%, and nuclear and coal were each up 1%. And that kind of tells you that solar power and wind power and possibly the batteries that go with them are growing very fast, and other sources of generating capacity are not growing fast. So, more of the same thing that we started with and I said we would get back to. So the next item here is from Renews. We have a solar array from the American Public Power Association, and I got this from Unsplash. Unsplash.com is a place you can go to get freely downloadable images. They also have lots and lots of images that come with a price, but you know the ones that are freely downloadable. If you click on the images, you can see that download for free. The title here is Solar Reaches 87% of New U.S. Capacity in the First Quarter. A review by Sunday Campaign of data just released by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission reveals that solar energy provided nearly 87% of all new capacity in the first quarter of 2024. In March, 99.7% of all new capacity added was solar, marking the 7th month in a row with solar adding more capacity than any other source. Now, some of what was added in the 0.3%, some of that was wind power. And there were other additions as well. A small amount of it was natural gas. But solar power is cheap. And the result of that is it is very attractive to add solar power with batteries, like this thing that I said earlier about NextEra Energy. And that kind of thing is important to understand. We are up to Wednesday, May 22nd, and we have a picture of wind turbines. And these wind turbines are not in Saudi Arabia. They're in a desert area though, and so we could kind of pretend they're in Saudi Arabia. This article is from Zawya, and that is an Arabic publisher that has stories coming out in English. The title of this story is Saudi Arabia Sets World Record for Lowest Cost of Electricity from Wind Power. Saudi Power Procurement Company signed 2 power purchase agreements with a consortium led by Japan's Marubeni Corporation for a total of 1.1 gigawatts of wind projects. 1.1 gigawatts of wind is not trivial. One power purchase agreement set a record low cost of wind energy with a levelized cost of energy at 1.565 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, we're accustomed perhaps to seeing power bills in which the cost of electricity is 18 cents or 20 cents or whatever per kilowatt hour. This is a very tiny fraction, but this is wholesale, not retail. And I want to remind people that early in the show I had said that a couple of years ago, NextEra Energy had talked about the lowest price of new nuclear power being 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour. This is approximately 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So we're talking about nuclear power costing 5 times as much, 6 times as much, in that ballpark, which was something else that we had been talking about. And so I think we can feel fairly confident that if we want nuclear power, we're going to have to pay extra for it. And not just a little bit extra, but a lot extra. And so nuclear power has its problems. Fossil fuels have their problems. But with nuclear power, we're only beginning to solve the problem of what to do with waste. There is no high-level nuclear waste facility open worldwide yet. There will be soon in Finland, unless something goes wrong. But it's the only one I know of that's going to be open anytime soon. And there are other problems with nuclear power. So, you know, if people are going to point to lithium batteries burning, solar plants failing to generate because, you know, it's raining, wind turbines catching on fire, blowing over in a tornado or whatever, I really think that they're clutching at straws, trying to prevent renewable energy from being installed. And that is something that is not good for us as a country or as individuals in the country. Okay, second to the last story, we have a picture of sunrise in the Maldives. This is from ABC News. Now, ABC News is American broadcast company. I have, for years, I've been putting up ABC, meaning Australian broadcast company, and ABC News if it was the American broadcast company. This is from ABC News, so it's American. The title of this article is UN Maritime Tribunal says countries are legally required to reduce greenhouse gas pollution. A UN Maritime Law Tribunal, the International Tribunal for Law of the Sea, found that countries are legally required to reduce greenhouse gas pollution, a victory for small island nations that are on the front lines of climate change. Now, I will say that I think that these small island nations are probably going to disappear with rising sea levels. And I will note that The expectation 10 years ago was that we would have a sea level rise of about 6 inches in the Gulf of Mexico between then and the year 2100. But the Gulf of Mexico's waters have risen 6 inches already. So the rise in sea level is something that is not very well understood, but it's happening far faster than anybody expected. And these small countries like the Maldives, and we have a picture of Maldives here, are in deep trouble. And in some cases, the people on some of these islands have been buying real estate on other islands at a much higher altitude, like a couple hundred feet above sea level, so that they can have a place to move to when it is no longer possible to live on their islands. And in some of these islands, it is already no longer possible to live on the island. The same thing is true for the United States. We have the coast of the Gulf, where the sea level has risen 6 inches in the last 10 years. There are places where it's just not working, and I'm thinking specifically of the coast of Louisiana, where, despite the fact that it's a Republican government in Louisiana, the state is warning the people along the coast, and it includes almost everybody in Cameron County, which is the southwesternmost county in Louisiana. The state is telling them the sea level is rising, the land is simultaneously subsiding, so Cameron County 25 years from now will probably have to be completely evacuated of people in order to give them places to live, because the county is just not going to be there anymore. And the same sort of thing is true of Florida. And of course, in the middle of all of this, Governor DeSantis of Florida has signed into law a thing saying that they aren't going to talk about climate change in their laws or in the enforcement of the laws. And so what are they going to do? I don't know. What do they do? You know, Miami has got, I think it's Miami, has got something like $500 million earmarked for protecting the city from sea level rise. They're already having problems with sea level rise because the sewer system has water backing up through it, so that, and this is the storm sewers, the sewer system has water backing up through it and coming out of the storm sewers onto the streets because the tides are higher than the streets. And they've got to stop that. They're putting in check valves. But in some places in southern Florida, the cities are on top of sand, and the water will just come up through the sand. So we've got a lot of problems, and we've got to address them. And saying that they don't exist or saying that we can ignore them is not what I would call smart. So there's my opinion. Anyway, our last story, and I'm going to put this up so you can see it. This is a picture of solar power on a Palm Desert Walmart. This is the roof of a Walmart store in California. This is from Electrek, and the story is, the title is, California exceeds 100% electricity demand with renewables for over a record 30 days. Update. So this is a story that we had on an earlier show, and it's being updated, so it's an interesting update. May 21st update. Stanford professor Mark Z. Jacobson is tracking California's renewables performance. Jacobson reports that California has exceeded 100% of electricity demand with renewables at times over a record 45 days straight and 69 out of 75 days. Now, let me be straight about this. If California has a period of, I forget whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes, but if they have a period during which renewable energy provides for more than 100% of the electric demand in California, that counts for a day in this, just 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, but it counts for the day. A time during that day, and California has had 45 days straight in which at least some period was 100% provided for by renewable energy. And out of the last 75 days, which is 2.5 months, 69 days, all but 6 days, had at least 100% provided for at least a few minutes, the time for the minutes. And that is our last piece. I'm going to put this up so that you can see it. It reads, "Have an extraordinarily fun week." And I am hopeful that you will do that. We have things that we could be scared of in energy and climate change, but there are things that we can see are going to work in our favor, and we should bear that in mind. There are things we can do to deal with this. So Tom would say, "You all come back now, you hear?" I'm probably not doing that as well as he does, but you know, he's from New York, so it's not like he's from Texas. He would wave, I'm waving. His cat would wave or not, depending upon where he is. And if we can't see the cat, then we don't know for sure. Anyway, come back next time and have a good week. Bye-bye.